Welcome to the pocket portion of our triple playtime shorts. So it's up to you. On your trim, you can baste your trim piece on, or as you can see, I still just have it clipped. It's completely up to you. It's what you're comfortable with. This is how I do it. So you'll have four pocket pieces, and you'll want two sets of mirrored pocket pieces. When you I used a solid color, so any side works, but if you want to use a print, make sure that you're using mirrored sets. So you need 4 pockets but 2 mirrored sets. Okay, so now we are going to put the pockets onto our front piece and our back pieces. So on the front piece, what we're actually going to do is you are going to measure 3/4 of an inch down, and that is where you're going to replace your pocket piece. So this, you'll notice that the pocket kind of goes down. So this is the bottom of your pocket. So this is the top of your pocket. So that's where you want to place your pocket. You want the top towards the top of the waistband on the front panel. So if you are using printed fabric, make sure you are laying your right sides together. So right sides of your fabric together. So measure 3/4 of an inch down, and go ahead and just use those same pins or clips that you use to put your trim piece down, and then just make sure it's all pinned down there. And then we are going to do the same on this side. Again, you want that mirrored pocket piece, right sides together, and 3/4 of an inch down. Really make sure you're measuring and paying attention, because you want your pocket pieces to line up and your shorts to go together correctly. So then we're going to move on to the back panels of your shorts. Now, if you look at the back panel, you'll notice that up here is the waistband, so this is the top. So you're going to take your top pattern, or your top pocket piece again, or your pocket piece again, and you're going to measure 3/4 of an inch down, and that is where you're going to place your pocket piece. Now make sure that you're placing right sides together on that printed fabric if you're using a printed fabric, just so when your pockets flip out and you can kind of see it, then that you'll see that printed portion. So again, on the other side, 3/4 of an inch down, and pin or clip your pocket piece. So we now have our pocket pieces pinned, and so now what we're going to actually do is we're going to actually sew on our pleat, your ruffle, your banded hem, whatever you're using. Go ahead and sew that on, and go ahead and stitch all the way, and stitch that pocket down all the way. So we're going to start here and attach the pleat on both sides, and then we're going to go back, and I will come back and show you how we're going to flip down the pleat when we attach the back pocket. Alright, so we have our trim piece and our pockets on our front panel all sewn in. So you'll see that we just sewed it in right along with the pleat. right sides together. And so now we are actually moving on to the back panel piece. And what you want to make sure with this, with the pleat, you want to make sure that you're kind of keeping that pleat folded down. So you're down, I would call it down, you're pressing it open, however you want to say that, because when you sew your side seams together, you want this pointing down, so when you press your side seams, this is laying how it should. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach our back pocket. So we're just going to stitch all the way down this side, and we're going to make sure that the pleat is pointing down. So we will be back and we will talk about what we do after we attach the back pocket portion. Okay, we now have all of our pocket pieces attached to our front and back panels. So now what we're actually going to do is we're going to kind of give the pockets a little, what I would call understitching. So we're going to press them, we're going to flip them up, and we're going to press them out kind of away from the main fabric. So we're going to press them, and then we're going to run just some top stitching or understitching, however you want to call that, right along this seam here on every single pocket piece. So just 1/8 of an inch away from that seam that you created when you attached the pocket to the main shorts. Make sure you press, and then we'll do the understitching, top stitching. We are all finished with stitching down our pockets. So I used a contrasting thread just for the sake of the video, so you could see where I did my stitching. You could use a contrasting thread, you use a coordinating, matching, whatever you would like. But that's what you should have done on all of the pockets. So you'll see on the front pockets where we have the pleat, you want to just stitch on the pocket and not on the pleat. So now what we are actually going to do is now we sew up our side seams, and it's a little different from just the shorts without the pockets. So you'll want to grab your shorts here and match up your side seams and pin all the way around. Now I'm all for using a serger, but on this step, because of the tight corners of the pocket, you don't really want to use your serger. You can't really kind of get in there in the tight corners with a serger because the blade gets in the way. So on this step, you do want to use your sewing machine. So you're just going to pin all the way up and line up all of your edges. And then the corner here. So you got so you notice how your pockets all line up. And then so on the bottom portion, after you have from your pocket, then you remember to fold down the pleat on the back side of your shorts, and then you're just going to ease it around that curve, and then you just pin it. So you just ease it around and secure it. And so what we're going to do is we are going to go back to our sewing machine, and we're just going to stitch all the way around, maintaining your 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So now my serger is set for 1/4 of an inch wide with the stitching here, so I know all I need to do is follow that line of stitching for my 1/4 of an inch, if that's what you want to do. And that's why we finished all of our edges when we were attaching the pockets and doing all those steps, since we are doing this on the sewing machine, and if you're using woven, the woven will fray. So you want to make sure that all your edges are finished, and that's kind of when we attach the pockets, and that's why we finish the edges of the pockets in the beginning. Now, if you don't have a serger, go ahead and finish your edges with a zigzag stitch, or if your machine has an overlocking stitch, you can do that too. All right, so I will just go ahead and finish on my other side and sew, and we will be back to talk about top stitching. So top stitching on the pockets is a little different also, because we don't want to top stitch those pockets closed. So we will be back to talk about top stitching. All right, we have finished attaching our side seams, and this is where we attached the pockets also, sewed the pockets together to make the actual pockets. So now we are going to top stitch our trim down so it lays nice and flat, but it's a little different from how we do the normal top stitching on the triple Playtime shorts with that do not have the pockets, because if we would sit here and we would do our normal top stitching, we would top stitch that pocket closed, so it's kind of a nice fun hidden pocket behind that trim. So we don't want to top stitch our pocket closed. So what we're going to do first is you want to make sure that you are pressing your pleat. I have the pleat on these shorts, but your pleat, your ruffle, whatever it may be, you want to make sure you're pressing that up towards your shorts. And then this gives you a nice clean edge to top stitch. And I love pockets. My little girl loves pockets that wears the shorts. It's kind of a nice, everybody loves pockets. So I'm just pressing the band up, like I said, or the trim up. Okay, so got that all pressed here. Okay, so now we're going to turn it right side out so you can kind of see. Move my iron out of the way. So we're going to tuck those pockets in there, and there we go. So now we are going to go to our machine, and we are going to top stitch so our legs and our trim pieces lay nice and flat. So you'll notice the pocket is about here, so that's where you want to start your top stitching. So you'll see here's my pocket and here's the end of my pocket, so you want to start it there. I'm going to use, you can use whatever matches. I am going to use a matching. I have been using contrasting thread throughout the video just so you can kind of see what I'm doing, but I am going to top stitch with matching just so you can kind of, but I will come back and show you kind of where I started and stopped. So you're going to stop at the bottom of the pocket, stitch all the way around the leg, and then kind of when you're top stitching, as you're top stitching along here, you're going to kind of flip this up and kind of end down here, but you don't want to catch that pleat in there, so you kind of want to move it out of the way as you're sewing it. I will be right back to show you my completed top stitching. Okay, as you see, I have finished my top stitching. You'll notice I did not top stitch that pocket closed. So I started right the bottom of the pocket, went down all the way around the leg, and then I ended. And so you'll notice, like I said, you don't want to, when you're top stitching, you don't want to catch that ruffle or that pleat, whatever you did in the top stitching, so you move it around out of the way and then you end it down there. So I did the same thing on the other side. So you notice, didn't top stitch that pocket closed, left that pocket open, started at the bottom pocket all the way around, ending, stop my thread, so ending underneath that, the back of that bottom pleat. And so there are our triple Playtime shorts with pleats and pockets. The pockets are a fun little add-on that we had for the sew along. If you have any questions, please let us know. The next step is we are attaching our waistband, and that is a separate video on how to attach the waistband. It applies to all the versions, whichever way you want to do that. So you go ahead and check out the waistband video, and thank you for joining us.